What is your definition of selfishness?
I think that selfishness means when someone is thinking about themselves not in a positive way, but a negative way, and it affects another person in a negative way.
And do you have a personal experience where somebody acted that way?
Definitely. I had a roommate, and we would make dinner together. So we shared a lot of the responsibilities, like dishes and cleaning up. And I came home one day, and she was going out with her boyfriend, and we always make dinner like on Thursdays, Fridays. We always go out, Saturday, whatever. And she decided to make dinner for herself and then eat in front of me, and then told me halfway through her dinner that she hadn't made dinner to share.
Selfishness is when you're greedy, when you do things in your own light, when you want to do things just for your own self, for your own pleasure. As in today, when I cheated on my test. That was selfish because I didn't care if Mr. Surge taught me anything. I only cared about my grade in that class.
Okay, my definition of selfishness is probably when you only have your own interests at heart. And I think a selfish act is committing suicide. And I think that a good example of a selfish act is after the Haiti earthquakes, there were a few people who were stealing food, and I think that was pretty selfish because everyone was just as hungry and they were all in a bad situation.
Selfishness is thinking only for yourself and not thinking about others. It's doing what you think is best for you and not worrying about what happens to anybody else. And I think something selfish would be when, you do something that you have no regret about the consequences when it happens to anybody else, and you just kind of do it no matter what.
Selfishness is when you do something with thoughts of yourself and no one else. A really selfish act is like stealing, lying is very selfish. And a very selfish act that's actually happened to me is when my friend took my essay and turned it in as their own, getting me in trouble and them, but it was just really selfish of them not to tell me that they were copying me and cheating off of me.
Being selfish is like you buy something for someone and then that person decided that, hey, it's not good enough. So that's being selfish. You should get whatever you get.
So like
my daughter, she wanted hugs, and I said, you've got 2 pairs, you don't need another pair this year. So she said to me, well, if you're not going to buy them, I'll buy them myself, put it on my credit card, and you can pay. I said, that's selfish, Felicia. It is, it's selfish.
I think selfishness is being just like selfish, not like doing everything for your own personal gain rather than like for other people. Like, I think it's important to stop and think about other people once in a while. And I think selfishness is not doing that. I think selfishness is not doing that. A personal example would be it's like cutting people off when you're driving. That's fucked up. Like, am I allowed to cuss?
It's okay.
Okay. That's like fucked up. Like, that's like messed with me so many times. Like when I'm driving, and it's bad.
Selfishness is when somebody cares about themselves more than anybody else or anyone around them. And when something happened to me that was selfish is I had a test first period and my brother just wouldn't wake up and I missed my test and I failed my test.
Well, my definition of selfishness is pretty much everybody else's, is when you're kind of a prick and you only care about yourself. And it's pretty basic. I know a guy who, we were doing projects and shit, and it's the usual grade school shit. He's like, oh, I got home late, I couldn't do this, could you do this? I'm gonna get a failing grade in the class. It's like, yeah, of course I'm gonna do it, because that's my grade too, but it's like, you drop the ball, and you're being selfish because you really don't give a shit about anybody else. There's like that basic human need to be selfish, like, oh, I need to eat. Would you call that selfish? No, I need to fucking eat. Pardon my French. Shit. I don't know. Everybody's selfish, and then there are people who are more selfish than others, and it just makes you an asshole.
Done?
An example of selfishness is when someone is only caring about themselves and not looking at the other side. So that's the definition. So an example of selfishness might be, someone borrowing an item of clothing and not returning it because they like it when it's their friends, or borrowing money and not giving it back because they just haven't thought of it. They didn't think of the other person. You know what I'm saying? Like, it'd be trifling.
What I think selfish is someone that only thinks of themselves and and that doesn't have any concern for anyone else's opinions or beliefs in anything, and only wants their concern to be the only priority. And an example of that would be someone, for instance, who, if they don't want to do something, they don't want to go somewhere, then they'll stop a whole group from going, and just for themselves, just because, for instance, if they don't like a certain place or they don't like a certain person, they don't want to hang out with that certain group, and then all their friends will end up having to kind of like follow them. And a personal experience would probably be when I was with my family and my cousin. She was whining about not wanting to eat somewhere, so she stopped my whole family from going and eating at this certain restaurant where everyone else wanted to go, but she was being really selfish and whining about it, so she stopped everyone from going.
I'm here to tell you my definition of selfishness, and I think it's like, if you only think about yourself and you don't care about anyone else and you don't help them, out with anything that anyone would need, and you don't want to, you just do things for yourself, and you do things to make you happy, but you don't do anything to help others to become happier, make their life better, or just, not caring if someone's hurt and just letting them, fall in a more hurt place or more of a depression, and you're just standing there sort of not caring.
I don't know, I feel like everyone's kind of selfish in some way, because even if you're doing something good or nice, like, it's still selfish because you're kind of doing it for yourself, like, to feel good about yourself. Even if you help feed poor people, that's still making you feel good about yourself, which is selfish. So everyone's kind of selfish, but there's just different levels of selfishness, I guess.
Do you have a personal experience where somebody was selfish?
Well, I mean, I know I'm selfish. I'm not saying I'm not. Sure, if I'm doing community service, it's generally not to do community services because I need to for school, and that's really selfish. So.
Do you think that somebody could argue that any action can be selfish? Like, let's say somebody does something kind for another person, but they actually do it just to make themselves feel better rather than out of kindness?
No, I think that selfishness always has a negative connotation and a negative reaction. Even if I decide I'm gonna give to Goodwill, I'm gonna donate half of my wardrobe because it makes me feel better, it's still benefiting someone in a positive way. So I don't think that's selfish.
Okay.